The rollout of the palliatives, for most Nigerians, it is not forthcoming. What has been distributed so far is not good enough to perhaps cushion the effect of subsidy removal, which was occasioned by that pronouncement by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on May 29th earlier this year, when he was delivering his inaugural speech. It is safe to say that Nigeria's living condition has turned into a crisis from that pronouncement, and the effects are still being felt today. But we're going to start the conversation with one of Nigeria's biggest states in the country, and especially in the northern part of the country, and that is Kano. The rollout began a couple of days ago, and the government has set up a committee to address the distribution method itself. But beyond that also, there are issues around whether or not the poor are actually being targeted with these palliatives, or whether distribution is equitable enough to actually make a significant difference in the lives of people affected by subsidy removal and its attendant effect on inflation across the country. Joining us now from Kano is the Secretary to the State Government, Dr. Abdullahi Baffa Bichi, joining us from our Kano studio this morning. Doctor, good morning. Thank you very much for making the time. I appreciate you very much for joining us on Daybreak.
Very good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right. I'd just like to get your initial thoughts on the position of the government. Over the past couple of days, the governor has expressed his displeasure over the sum that the federal government has decided to distribute across the states, 500 billion now, 500 billion naira across the 36 states of the federation, including the FCT, 5 billion naira apiece for each state. Some have gotten 2 billion so far. Can you tell us how much Kano State has received from the federal government as part of the palliative package?
Well, the notification we have in Kano State is 4 billion naira notification, but the actual cash received is 2 billion naira. And in the notification, the 4 billion naira is supposed to be 52% loan and 48% grant. So we received 2 billion naira, which is supposed to be the loan part of the package announced by the federal government. So it's not 5 billion. In reality, it's 4 billion that we receive as notification, and we have received so far 2 billion naira.
So is there a chance that the 1 billion naira could be outstanding as far as the arrangement is concerned? Because an announcement was made, there was a NEC meeting, and I believe your governor was also there. So is 4 billion the entire package, or is it still going to be 5 billion at the end of the day?
Well, what I'm saying is the notification we received in writing is saying 4 billion naira, and the actual cash received is 2 billion naira, and not even the 4 that we receive as notification. We are going by the pronouncement of federal government. What it means is Kano State government is expecting 3 billion naira more.
Right.
All right, Doctor. Looking at the population of Kano and what it has to do with in terms of size relative to the amount that has been received, how best would you describe how you have utilized this fund so far?
Well, in reality, the distribution across the state is not equitable, and a state with population of over 25 million people, with 44 local government councils, with 40 state house of assembly members, with 24 house of representative members, and you are allocating the same amount to that state with a state that has a population of less than 5 million. Looking at the population, palliative ought to have been distributed in accordance with the population, but they are sharing this, they are allocating this equally across the country. We feel that it can be done in a much better way. Coming to your question in respect of the 2 billion naira that was given to us, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, Engineer Abakabir Yusuf, actually has approved spending much more than 2 billion naira. What we did in Kano State is to categorize the kind of palliative measures that we are going to take. One, there is foodstuff items, and there are non-foodstuff items, and there are monetary or financial, if you like, monetary components of the palliatives. These 3 categories of measures that His Excellency, the Kano State Governor has approved, we itemize the food items, the non-food items, and then the cash components of the palliatives. That's one part. The second part is to identify the target households that are supposed to benefit from these palliative measures that are being rolled out by Kano Sergama. We identify all the category of people, the most deserving people that are supposed to receive this palliative. But I must say that it is practically impossible to say that you are going to give to everybody. That is why it is called palliative. Palliative is a temporary measure to cushion the effect of certain the symptoms, to address the symptoms momentarily without really curing the cause. The cause is removal of subsidy. Kano State government cannot cure that disease of removal of subsidy. But the effect, the symptoms of that are the difficulty that all citizens are undergoing, and we are trying to find a way to bring some succor, to bring some relief, momentarily, temporary relief, and that is an indication of compassion on the side of His Excellency the Governor of Kano, an indication of empathy on the side of Kano State government to ensure that Kano State, those on the bottom of the social ladder, being attended to, and that is why we identify the category of people that are going to benefit from this. And after the identification of the category of people, then how will the distribution take place? We also develop a system how the distribution is going to be made, and then we also have a committee that will ensure compliance
Doctor,
of the distribution.
Help us understand a bit more clearer, because you have touched on an area where there's a lot of people that seem to express concern about the fidelity and the integrity of this register of beneficiaries. Can you help us understand how Kano State, for instance, what metrics it uses in identifying who is more appropriate or deserving? Because clearly, like you mentioned in your speech, everybody cannot get this. How do you stratify your society such that you are able to tell people who fall into the bracket that are a must benefit in any of the categories?
First, perhaps you allow me to mention the items, and then I will go into the details.
All right.
The food items, His Excellency has approved the procurement of 99 trailer loads of rice, 150 trailer loads of maize. The ones that we are expecting from the federal government, we are expecting some hundreds, about 350 truckloads of millet, maize, and rice. But I will have to put it on record that so far from the federal government we received 3 trailer loads of maize and about 21 trailer loads of rice. But at the level of the state, we made arrangement to procure 99 trailer loads of rice and 150 trailer loads of maize, which we are going to use for this distribution. And these are the food items. What we intend to do with the food items is to distribute them across these demographics. We have 484 registration areas in Kano State, and a committee that is going to ensure the distribution of these items is made up of the elected member of State Assembly. Whether you are from our party or you are from another party, you are a member. Local government chairman, all the local government chairmen in Kano State do not belong to our party. And then we have the chairman of Community Reorientation Committee. We have the chief imam in the locality, and we have the chairman of School-Based Management Committee in the locality, and we have the leader of our party in the locality, and we have also the commissioner or the special advisor or the state house, the House of Representative member coming from that local government also as member. So we have formed a committee that is community based, that is non-partisan, that involves all the political parties and that involves all the community leaders, that is going to do this identification. We cannot see how this group of people with different political views, with different political inclination will come and do something that is going to be seen as sinister. And we did this deliberately to ensure that partisanship is not brought into the distribution of these palliatives. The non-food items that we have got non-food items are targeted at students. So we have some 44,000 uniforms that are going to be distributed to primary school children. This is relief to their parents. 44,000, meaning that in each local government we are going to distribute 1,000. We have about 1 million exercise books. 1 million exercise books that are going to be distributed to across the 44 local governments. We have about 1 million textbooks of English and mathematics that are also going to be distributed. We have school bags, about 44,000 school bags. We have about 44,000 pairs of sandals that are going to be distributed. This is relief to parents. We are returning to school now. Parents are looking for money from left, right, and center to purchase these items. When you distribute at least to 1,000 in each 1,000 household in each local government, you are at least bringing about some relief. And we also have quantum of large chunk of chalk and whiteboards that we are going to distribute to schools. These are the non-food items. We have mats that we are going to distribute to local communities. We have buckets, we have shrouds that are going to be distributed to the underprivileged. These are the non-food items.
But
monetary...
Doctor, pardon the interruption.
Yes.
I know we're going to get to a list of all that you're offering the good people of Kano State as part of the palliative package. But if we can just double down on the social register itself, because it's very important for us to know how you're targeting, how you came up with the information on that register. The administration is just barely 3 months now. What metrics, as Sunday did put out, did you use to identify them? And as you also stated, you can't service everybody below the ladder, right? But also, my question to you is, don't you also see the irony in what you just said, especially regarding the distribution of that 500 billion naira, where you said 500 billion. Kano State does not have the same poverty burden as Edo State, for instance, right? But just moments ago, you just said you're distributing 1,000 exercise books, 1,000 bags, 1,000 uniforms equally across your 44 local governments. It's safe to say that you're also using the same approach of equity.
Get me right. I said we have 1 million copies of exercise books. So when you are distributing 1 million copies of exercise books, 1 million copies of textbooks of English and mathematics, what I said is uniform, school uniform. That's one that we have 44,000. 1,000, we are sending 1,000 to each local government. Uniform. But exercise books, we have 1 million copies. Textbooks of English and mathematics, we have 1 million copies, not 1,000.
But the point is, you're sharing it equally across the 44 local governments, right?
We are when you have only 1,000 exercise, 1,000 school bags, that's 44,000. When you have 1,000 pair of shoes per local government, that's 44,000. When you have 1,000 set of uniforms, that's 44,000 across the local government. At that level, it is appropriate because they are kind. They are not cash, they are kind. It's appropriate because we are selecting 1,000. 1,000 is a drop in the ocean in relation to the population of primary school pupils in Kano State. And that is why you cannot proportion that number. But when you are talking in billions, you have to proportion the number. When you are talking in 1,000, you say you are going to give this local government 500, this local government 1,500. It doesn't make meaning under that circumstance, because in each local government you are going to have much more than this number of pupils that are from low income family or no income family, and that's why we for those items that we don't have in large quantities, we use the equality metric. For those for those items that we have in large quantity, we use the equity matrix. So it is equality and equity, and that is why when you have few items to distribute, you distribute them equally. But when you have millions of items to distribute, you distribute them equitably, and that is the strategy we are adopting in Kano. It's not irony, and it's not in any way contradictory. We are using both equity and equality, depending on what is it that we are going to distribute and what is the quantum of items that we have to distribute.
Let's talk about that social register, because for most people from the outside looking in.
Thank you very much. We have two sources. One is our Ministry of Budget and Planning. Our Ministry of Budget and Planning has been keeping the social register for ages. It's a social register that we also inherited. We also updated it with the records of NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, which is a federal agency, has developed a very comprehensive social register of all the states. And we have that register by NEMA, because they've been doing these interventions here every now and then, every year NEMA is doing. So the register by NEMA and the register by our State Ministry of Budget and Planning, which this administration did not develop, which is inherited. These are the two documents that is guiding the distribution. And we have a general rule. For example, we said, hang on. We said 484 words. We are sending certain number of bags of rice, certain number of bags of maize, for example. Those that are going to benefit are going to be selected from the social registers related to those registration areas. And that is how we are going to select the people that are going to benefit. His Excellency has warned that if any political office holder is involved in collecting or in nominating, in collecting these items, or in nominating anybody that is going to collect these items, that person is going to be sanctioned. He's going to take disciplinary measure against any political office holder that involve himself or herself in nominating somebody to collect these palliative items or in collecting these palliative items. So that is why His Excellency has put a compliance committee on palliative distribution at the state level, a very high-powered committee being chaired by myself, the Secretary of the Government, the Chief of Service is a member, the Head of Service is a member, and about 5 commissioners are members, and some of his advisors are members. A very high-powered compliance committee. And a compliance committee on palliative distribution was also set up at the local government level, very high-powered at that level. And a compliance committee on palliative distribution was set up at all the 484 registration areas in the state. This compliance committee is to ensure that these palliative items, have reached the intended destinations, those that household that have been identified by
but how many people do you have on the register, Doctor? How many people do you have in the register? We know of Kano's poverty map. How many people do you have captured in the register?
I cannot tell you the exact number on the NEMA register, but on the Kano State Ministry of Planning and Budget Social Register, we have well over 7 million.
All right. So is that what you're working with right now?
And this palliative, we are targeting 500,000 households, and we have a register with over 7 million names, and we are targeting 500,000 households.
Okay. Doctor, I would like you to speak to some of the concerns that have come up in the wake of the procurement of these palliatives. Daily Trust Market Intelligence suggests that the moment the state government and the federal government started mopping up this palliative food items, they became scarce in the market, because already we are dealing with shortage in the market, and so that saw prices skyrocketing above the roof. We saw price of maize jump from a whopping 45 to about 75,000, ditto rice and others. So I would like to understand, with this new revelation, how are you handling the procurement? Because mopping from what is in itself insufficient would mean, whilst you're trying to solve one problem, somehow inadvertently you have created another problem for people who are struggling to keep their heads above water.
Well, I think you are trying to create unnecessary difficulty in the whole exercise. Let me say this: government is procuring items to distribute free of charge. These palliative items are not to be sold. If government is procuring items to distribute, if that has caused a rise in the a rise in the cost of these items, it's not because government is procuring them. It is because of the fuel subsidy remover. The fuel subsidy remover has caused inflation. No doubt about it. So blaming procurement of grains to be distributed freely as a reason for the increase in the price of grains, I think is really disadvantageous to the very people who are going to benefit.
But doctor, this is something.
Hang on.
Pardon the interruption, doctor.
Hang on, please.
Go ahead, please.
The other alternative is hang on, please. The other alternative is to say, don't do it, because if you do it, it will increase the price of foodstuff, and so there will be no palliative at all. Because that's the other alternative of your argument. The flip side of your argument is government shouldn't do it because it will lead to increase in price of food items. But will the masses want that your argument to hold? They will not. So I think we should face the reality. The reality is fuel subsidy has been removed. It has caused difficulty. It has created inflation. It has created all sorts of difficulties in the society. State governments and federal government are working together to see how they are going to bring about relief. And like I said at the beginning, this relief is momentarily, is temporary. But remember also, Kano State is the biggest grain market in the entire West African sub-region. So how we are going to source this, your reporters, we were going to all the vendors that we hired with your reporters. We visited about 8 different vendors that we hired to provide this grain. We didn't hear complain from them of difficulty to source these grains, because as far as Kano is concerned, sourcing grains is not a problem because we have the biggest grain market in West Africa.
Okay, Doctor, I would need you to understand the perspective where I'm coming from. We understand Kano is the biggest grain market in West Africa, but it does not only service the community in Kano. And what scarcity does is where there is a government fund chasing these huge sums of grain, it is easier to mobilize those grains and price the middle citizens out of the market. My understanding is, did you factor this into the sourcing such that we could do some of the sourcings from outside the state? Because scarcity, triggers inflation, and whilst you're trying to take care of one segment of the population, it could throw the other segment into some kind of crisis. So what we wanted to know is if there is any augmentation in the sourcing process such that it will help to also supply will help to moderate prices in the market. That is what that question intended to.
My brother, you have just said that Kano is serving not only Kano markets, grain markets are not serving only Kano. If we are in a state where grains are being exported even to other countries, not to other states, to other countries, from Kano, grains are taken to as far as Central African Republic. They are taken as far as Libya. That the grains are taken to as far as Sudan. If we have a market that is exporting grains to other countries, not just to other states in the country, what are you talking about when you say we should factor going to other places to outsource these grains? We have grains in abundance in Kano to the point of exporting them to other countries. What sort of shortage are you are you thinking that we are going to cause difficulty to? If the retailers and the dealers of grains are extremely very happy in Kano because they have a booming market. And what we want in Kano is for the market to boom. If they will have to go elsewhere, the dealers and the retailers of grains, if they will have to go elsewhere to procure grains to service, because let me tell you something, even the ones that are being procured by federal government, they are sourcing them largely from Kano and from Kaduna, largely. Remember, we have the biggest rice mills in the country. The biggest rice mills in the country are located in Kano. The biggest rice mills in the country are located in Kano. The biggest producers of rice are in Kano. The biggest grain silos that you can find anywhere in this country are in Kano. So,
Doctor, just to give perspective to
where there is no rabbit.
Yes, just to give perspective to what we are saying. We have all these big rice mills in Kano and all, but as a country, we still have shortage. And the shortage clearly is what has accounted for price jumping from a moderate 24,000 to about 75,000 today. If we had them in surplus, those prices would not be there. But just moving the conversation a bit forward, I would like to understand.
No. Let me correct this impression, please.
If you may, Doctor, if I may, I would like to move this conversation a bit forward so that we can make progress. We have talked about how you have captured people largely in the bottom of the pyramid. But how do we graduate this palliative such that every resident of Kano will have some kind of meaningful impact in terms of maybe providing subsidized transport service and all of that? Do you have that as part of your plans as well?
We cannot pretend to say that we are going to do a palliative system that is going to affect all citizens. Doing for all. It's only God Almighty that will do for all. We said this is a palliative measure. It's a show of compassion. It's a show of empathy. It's a show of sympathy. It's a show of concern. And we are targeting those at the bottom of the social ladder. Yes, we have mass transit that His Excellency is going to launch. We also have higher purchase taxi services that His Excellency is going to launch. But we have no intention to pretend that everybody is going to benefit from palliative. But we are going to target those that are at the bottom of the social ladder, those that are worst hit by the removal of subsidy. Like I said, even the English man defines palliative as a temporary measure to arrest causes. I mean, to arrest symptoms, not the causes. So we are looking at the symptoms of this removal of subsidy, the results of this removal of subsidy, and we are trying to look at the most vulnerable in the society and try to assist them by showing concern, by showing compassion. At the level of students, we have paid the registration fees of all Kano indigenes that are studying at Bayero University, Kano, and His Excellency has approved that we should also start collating those that are in other tertiary education institutions, indigenous of Kano in other tertiary education institutions that are unable to register, that are not able to pay their registration fee, so that we will see even in Bayero University there are those that are not able to that were not able to register that we have targeted, and His Excellency has also approved the distribution of 20,000 as a relief child students in junior secondary school and senior secondary school as they are preparing to. We have targeted 27,000 girl child students to encourage girl child education and to reduce the burden of return to school cost, because when students are returning to school, the cost on parents is very high. 20,000 to 27,000 girl child in junior secondary school and senior secondary school are going to be distributed. We are already collecting their names. We are identifying them. This 27,000 is a small number of girl child students in senior secondary school and junior secondary school in Nigeria, but we are targeting those also that are from the bottom of the ladder family.
Okay. Doctor, just before we wrap up the conversation, you just talked about that intervention in paying for the student fees in Bayero University, Kano, to the tune of 700 million naira. That was the approval by the Kano state government. But just give us the rationale behind the state government's thinking when you're complaining about limited resources to target the affected persons who are below the pyramid in Kano, for instance. What is the justification for approving the sum of 854 million naira for mass weddings in Kano? We know the economics of weddings. It is only going to further complicate an already bad situation. How does the government justify spending that huge sum that appears to be lavish in light of a very hard economic situation in the country?
Well, first, our rationale for the payment of students' fees, those that we paid for are also from the mass wedding, bottom of the ladder. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. We said we paid for those that were not able to register. Bayero University started registration about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and those that registered, they are capable, they are able to do. Those that were unable to register up to certain time, we know they are looking for the money, they are unable to raise the money, and we paid for them. As far as the mass wedding is concerned, that is a campaign promise. Your reporters followed our campaign, and at every local government, His Excellency the Governor of Kano promised to return the mass wedding policy that was initiated in 2011, which is extremely very popular in Kano State.
So
I don't understand.
You're saying this is top priority because it is a campaign promise.
Hang on. You asked me the question. I'm providing the answer. Hang on. You asked me the question. I can't understand when you said making a bad situation worse by marrying off daughters of the vulnerable. Daughters of the vulnerable, that we all know the cost of wedding. Yes, we do. But it is difficult for some household to marry off their daughters, even though they have the spouses that are willing to marry them, because of this underlying cost. So for us, this is also a form of palliative. For us as a government, although it is a campaign promise, we are fulfilling that campaign promise, and we are not doing this one off. Brace up for this. We are going to be doing this annually, because we promised to do it. We will want every vulnerable family and families at the bottom of the ladder that are not able to marry their daughters, because we want to reduce the social vices. There are unintended costs of keeping your daughters out of that have reached the age of marriage, that have their suitors that are willing to marry them, and that are not, the parents are not able to get ready to prepare what is needed. There are unintended costs. There are unintended costs. The spread of social vices, we want to reduce that. And the spread of social vices is the major cause of poverty. Kano State, we are very spiritual, and we respect our religion, and we don't want our society to be we don't want poverty to be rampant in our society. We don't want these vices to spread in our society.
As much as we love to continue the conversation, because I think it's head scratching for most people that the state government can afford 854 million naira to sponsor mass wedding in light of all the poverty across Kano. How 7 million people or 6-point-something million people are uncovered because you don't have the resources.
If you will give me a minute.
It is not a question.
If you will give me a minute.
We're trying to wrap up the conversation.
No. You will be very unfair if you didn't allow me this 1 minute.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to.
You have to allow me this 1 minute.
No, we just have to end the conversation.
You will be unfair to me if you didn't allow me this 1 minute.
We don't have 1 minute. If you can take just 30 seconds, then go ahead.
No, you don't have 1 minute.
Go ahead. We have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
If you look at the details, if you look at the details of the distribution of this mass wedding, each couple is going to be given money to invest. They're going to be given what we call empowerment. Each couple, after marrying them up, they are starting a business. So in reality, you are creating jobs because government has part of the 850 million. There is money for them to invest in business.
To the state government of Kano. Unfortunately, we're going to have to draw the end to the conversation here, but we look forward to having you in the coming days so we can perhaps talk a little bit more about how the rollout is going and the desired effect it is having on Kano as a state. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daybreak. We really do appreciate the analysis.
Thank you very much for having me.